Well, this is no surprise. Karin Slaughter has another number one book, Rob. Look at this. I'm looking at it.
I know, it's great. She's wonderful.
Karin has been with us before. Her new book is called Pieces of Her, and I'm looking on Amazon, and it's considered a number one book in the financial category. Really? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's number 13 in women's sleuths. It's number 15 in police procedurals. Let's find out why it's getting all this attention. Karin is on the phone. She's the founder of the Save the Libraries Project, by the way. Good morning, Karin. Thank you for coming on the air with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Are you in New York right now?
I am.
All right. How's the library situation up there? How's it going?
You know, it's better up here. Atlanta is my hometown, and we have in the city a good library. But right next to it, this is very typical all over the country. You know, you'll have a town with a great system, and next door is one that's kind of hurting. So I've been trying to focus my resources on hurting the adjacent ones, or helping rather than hurting.
I think it's a really important thing you're doing, and because there's a movement right now. I guess because everybody has access to everything on their phones, that there's a feeling we don't need libraries. But gosh, I would hate to lose our libraries. I just love the fact that we have them.
Yeah, they're amazing. And, you know, the thing is, if you have a phone, if you don't have a credit card or you don't have the money to buy a book, then you don't really have a book, right? And the thing about the library is anybody who's a citizen of that county can go get a book. And, you know, as long as you bring it back, they'll give you another book. And a lot of people, especially in rural areas, have no access to the internet except through the library. So it's a great place for the community just to come together and you know, not just have reading, but internet access, book clubs, reading groups for children. It's really the heart of the community.
And I know we're here to sell a book, but the truth is you can go to the library and read a book for free. There's very few places online that you can do that, right?
Well, not legally, that's correct. But, you know, libraries buy books. They don't steal them. So I'm okay with libraries having my books.
So tell me about your new book, Pieces of Her. Tell us what the story is.
Well, you know, it starts in a beach town in South Georgia on the coast, and Andrea is having lunch with her mother. It's her birthday. She just turned 31, and she's the typical elder millennial. You know, her life hasn't really started, and her mom's kind of giving her a mom type of lecture about getting off her butt and getting out of the house and getting a real job and that sort of thing. And since this is the opening of a thriller, something really bad happens. But what the response is what shocks Andrea, because instead of running away or hiding or like a normal person would do, her mother actually confronts the bad guy, and she ends up doing something shocking that seems so out of her personality. And then, of course, bad things keep happening, and Andrea realizes her mother has lied to her about who she is. Basically hasn't told her the truth about anything to do with what life was like for her before Andrea came along.
And that's the wonderful thing about your book, is that it's told through both female perspectives, Andrea's now and Laura's back then.
You know, that's a lot of fun to do. And, you know, I'm a woman of a certain generation now. I'm not 50 yet. I'm holding on to that. But I remember when I was a kid, young girls weren't given a lot of hopeful messages. You know, we weren't told we could be a doctor or a lawyer. We were told, well, you could be a dental hygienist or, you know, have some kind of job until you meet a right guy and he can take care of you and you can get married and have children. But for women of Andrea's generation, you know, they're told they can be anything. And I think to a certain degree, it's really kind of scary because there's so many choices and they're so terrified of making the wrong choice that the answer for them is to not do anything. And I wanted to talk about that with the book, was just how different the world is now for women and how sometimes all these choices can be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, I guess so. And so you've woven that into a story. And I guess that's one of the reasons why so many people are just really enjoying the book. Are you surprised with the category that it's getting high grades on?
Well, yeah, financial is a, a little funny.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. I'll take it. There is there's a conversation where Andrea's father tells her that she needs to learn how to go by a budget and not just if she has money in her bank account, spend it. So I think just under the wire we can qualify for financial.
You also bring out the effects of violence in your book, and that's something we deal with all the time here.
Yeah, the world is a very dangerous place for women. It can be a very violent place. There's a lot of stuff going on now with the Me Too movement, where some of this is coming out. Just the harassment that a lot of women deal with, and a lot of good men standing up and saying, "Yeah, we need to stop this from happening." But for me, it's a very personal thing, because when I was growing up, my grandmother was abused by my grandfather, and we would see a black eye or a broken bone or something like that, and it was considered their business, right? It was something within their marriage, and we weren't allowed to comment on it. And that silence only helped him. It didn't help her in any way. And so when I started writing about these topics, I thought, well, I want to show them for what they are. There's nothing romantic. There's nothing sexy or sexual or great about this. It's all horrible, and I want to show it for what it is. And that's what I do with this book, is I talk about domestic violence and show that it's not just a physical thing. It's an emotional and psychological thing as well.
Yeah. And you've transcended into television with this novel. We're going to see a series, or is it going to be a made-for-TV movie?
Well, hopefully it will be a limited series. That's what they're talking about doing. And I've got great people involved. The producer who worked on and is working on Big Little Lies, a director who's worked on everything from NYPD Blue to ER to Mad Men to Homeland. And the writer, most importantly, is someone I have great respect for. She's working on House of Cards. She worked on Homeland, and she just really understands the characters. And I think that's so important. A lot of times when we love a book and we see it adapted, we think, well, did they read the same book? But the woman they've chosen just really gets what I'm trying to do with the characters, and she has a deep understanding of what motivates them.
Nice.
And in this particular book, this is the first book these characters appear in, right?
It is. And, I always thought when I was crafting the book that this would be a standalone, but, it's one of those books that I thought, gosh, I can see Andrea doing more things. So maybe I'll come back to her eventually. Yeah.
Okay. So, and is that hard? Is it hard to crank up some new characters when you had a few books that had characters that appeared in several books?
Yeah, I love writing about my series characters, Will Trent and Sarah Linton, and I'm actually working on a new book with them that will be out next year. It takes about a year to write them, so I'm well ahead of the schedule this year, which is nice. But, it's always fun to think of new stories, and I love writing. It's something I'm very passionate about, even given how many books I've written. I really want to feel like I'm getting better as a writer. I want to learn something new with each book. And sometimes you need to just take a step out of a series and do a standalone story. And it just keeps it exciting and interesting for me. We
as human beings are insatiable when it comes to stories. It's amazing how many stories we want to hear. I mean, it's all the time. Everything, a book, TV, movies, we all want to hear stories. Even the news is a story,
true.
Right?
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. But I've always loved reading. I know you guys are big readers too.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the gift that you give yourself, whether you're reading it or listening to an audiobook. It's just a moment where you step out of everything else and it's just for you.
Yep, absolutely. Karin sent us a copy of her book. It's called Pieces of Her. Call me if you'd like the book that was sent to us. The rest of us have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon, and you have a website, right?
Yes, KarinSlaughter.com.
All right, and Karin is spelled Karin for those looking it up. Thank you, Karin. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll be right back.
Operating extensively with Mueller's team, something the president insists he greenlighted. Another weekend of violence in Chicago where 58 were shot, 4 killed. Gunshots even ringing out at an event to promote peace.
Everything was going well, and at the ending of the event, a fight erupted, and from that fight, shots were fired.
That's Richard Raymond.